Do you know that you can become very, very rich? You can achieve what I call financial independence through debt. If debt is actually well used in a proper manner, you can actually become very, very rich. This secret, this mystery are those things that are actually used by the rich in the society. So if you want to become rich, then it is imperative that you use your debt to your own advantage. A lot of people will say that debt is not a good thing, that when you take debt or you are actually indebted, you pay interest on top of the debt, and at the end of the day, if the debt does not yield positively, it becomes a negative or bad debt, and at the end of the day, you are going to pay the penalty for it. But in most cases, we have seen a lot of people today that have actually become very rich in society, and what they used to become who they are today, which the world is actually celebrating them, is actually debt. Do you also know that a lot of the rich people you find in the society today, a lot of them are actually indebted? Most of them own companies or conglomerates, and they are actually indebted. Despite the fact that they are one of the most richest people in the world today, they are also indebted. They are living in debt. It all depends on how you actually use your debt, whether positively or negatively. Some people, most especially in the upper class level of social stratification, they actually use this debt to make themselves to be very rich, while those at the lower class or the middle class use the debt to make other people to be rich. To become wealthy, you need to understand the concept of debt and how it affects both the rich and the poor in the society. For the rich, debt affects them positively, but for the lower class or the middle class or the poor class, debt actually affects them negatively. In this video, I am going to use Elon Musk as a case study so that you can be able to understand what I'm talking about when I say debt can make you to be rich or debt can actually make you to be poor. Elon Musk today is the most richest man in the world, but he actually uses debt to make himself to be richer. At the end of the day, he does not pay taxes, and if at all he's paying taxes, the amount that is used to pay tax is reduced to the barest minimum. I know a lot of you are eager to know how Elon Musk pays a little amount of money as tax. Elon Musk is able to do this because he is not paying himself any form of a salary. Now you'll be wondering, how does he survive even when he's not paying himself a salary? Then how does he become the most richest man in the world? I'm going to explain it in this video. For an average man in the society that works and earns money at the end of every financial month, he needs to pay tax. And in every country of the world, if you actually evade tax, there is actually a prison waiting for that individual. You need to understand that Elon Musk actually agreed with Tesla to be paid in stock options and not a salary. Do you see it now? So Elon Musk was actually paid in stock options and not a salary. Now, how does the stock options makes Elon Musk to be one of the most richest men in the world? If Elon Musk, when Tesla was actually created and he has a stock value of 20 million shares, at $350 per stock option price. That is, by unit price of the shares is actually $350, and he has 20 million shares in Tesla. And at the end of the day, the price of Tesla stock actually goes up to $1,000. It means that Elon Musk has made $650 at the end of the day by unit cost of each shares. If you multiply $650 times 20 million units of shares, that makes Elon Musk $13 billion richer. That is $650 times 20 million shares of stock options. It will give you roughly $13 billion. You need to understand that this $13 billion is not the money in his bank account. The money is not in his bank account. It is just ordinary shares in form of stock value. This money are actually what he has access to. For Elon Musk to make money at the end of the day, don't forget that he already has $13 billion already. He needs to sell the stock options at $1,000. That means that if he is able to sell it at $1,000 times 20 million shares at the profit of $650, he is going to have $13 billion. But this money is not sitting in his bank account. It's actually the money he has access to. If Elon Musk decided to sell those shares, he is actually going to pay tax on those shares. If he decides to sell them directly, he will pay tax. But most of them are very, very smart, just like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a very, very smart entrepreneur. He's a businessman. He's very intelligent. He has intelligence IQ very, very high. To avoid paying tax, he will go to a bank and ask for a loan. Do you see? Elon Musk will actually go to a bank and ask for a loan. The bank will not say no because he has the collateral and the ability to pay the money. And what is his collateral? The collateral is the $13 billion in form of what? Of stock shares. By approaching a bank, he can ask for $2 billion, $3 billion, $4 billion, or any amount of dollars that he actually wanted. Don't forget, he has the collateral and he also has the ability to pay. So the loan that Elon Musk is going to get at the end of the day will not be taxed. It will not be taxed because it is actually a loan, and loans are not taxed. By doing this, Elon Musk is going to escape paying tax. This is actually the game wealthy people are playing to avoid taxes and also to grow the value of their asset. This information, you may never get it anywhere. For you to survive in this capitalist system, you need to understand the games of the wealthy class. I am not saying that everybody does not play this game. We all play this game provided we go to the banks to ask for a loan. But the way we all play these games are never the same. The rich will go to the bank and ask for money and use their shares or their asset as a collateral in order to avoid paying taxes. But for the poor, they go to the banks and get these loans, and at the end of the day, they are making the banks to be richer. At the end of the day also, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer, because the ways through which we make use of the debt or the loans are quite different from each other. For the rich, the loan is actually used to facilitate their wealth, but for the poor, the loan is actually used to make the banks to be more richer. For the majority of the people in the society, they actually borrow this money to further or to increase their lifestyle. Once they get this loan, most of them use this loan to buy expensive cars. They use this money to buy expensive clothing or jewelries or shoes or shirts or even handsets, just to look trendy, just to look like a fashionista in the society, just to impress their friends or their relatives or their neighbors, just to give an impression that they are actually rich, just to give the impression to people around them that they are okay, that they are actually wealthy. But on the other hand, they are not wealthy. When they get paid at the end of the month, they use part of that money to settle their loans. In most cases, all debt is a bad debt if it does not yield any value at the end of the day. Now, how can you use your debt to create wealth for yourself at the end of the day? I'm going to be mentioning 3 things that you needed to do to actually turn your debt into wealth. Number 1 thing you need to do is that you need to stop financing liabilities. You need to stop financing liabilities. In most cases, a lot of us are financing liabilities unconsciously or sometimes consciously. We use our money to buy things that we do not necessarily need, or we use our money to buy things that create dust now in our houses, or we use our money to buy things that actually create a hole in our pocket. We use our money to buy things that does not have any value at the end of the day. And in most cases, what are those things? Number 1, you want to impress people that are actually okay or wealthy. Maintaining a car in Nigeria now is very, very expensive. You buy the fuel, which is at 865 naira, and the car maintenance, and don't forget you have a family to take care of. Your wife and your children, and the house rent, transportation, and the feeding, and the school fees, they are not there. They are all there. At the end of the day, how do you want to survive? So in most cases, we finance liabilities. Your expensive clothing are also liabilities. Your expensive wristwatches are also liabilities. Your designer wears are also liabilities because they are not getting you more money. Except that car is for a commercial purpose like Uber. You're using that car to move people from one place to another, and the car is actually generating more money for you at the end of the day, apart from the servicing and the fueling and the other things. Then you can say that that car is actually not a liability. But if that car is for fancy purposes, then it's actually a liability. Housing can actually be a liability. For example, if you are also living in an expensive apartment, it's also a liability. Now, how do you stop a liability? Number 1 thing you need to do is to do what I call avoid impulse buying. Avoid impulse buying. Anything that will always stimulate you to always buy and buy, you need to avoid that. You need what I call the 24-hour rules. Before buying anything, sleep over it for 24 hours. By the time you wake up the following day, that impulse, that urge to buy it will have actually gone down at the end of the day. Then another thing you need to do to avoid liability is to always buy your things with your own cash. Avoid easy buy now and pay later, and all the loans, because at the end of the day, your liabilities are not creating any value. So use your physical cash or your own money to buy anything you wanted to buy at the end of the day. By so doing, you avoid the defaults, you avoid the interest, and you also avoid the penalties. The second thing you need to do to make your debt to become a wealth is to follow the rules of 5. The rules of 5. Now, what is actually the rules of 5? What this rule is saying is that before you buy anything, you should be able to afford 5 of those things. For example, before you buy a phone of 200,000 naira, the rules of 5 is saying that if you don't have up to 1 million naira, you do not necessarily need to buy a phone of 200,000 naira. So anything you want to do, you need to apply the rules of a 5. If your money cannot buy 5 of those things, then you don't need to buy it. Number 3 things you need to do on how you can actually turn your debt into wealth is using your money strategically and not stupidly. Using your debt strategically and not stupidly. Now, when I say using your money strategically or using your debt strategically, what I'm saying there is that if at all you wanted to get the money, or you want to borrow a loan, or you want to get a debt, or you want to be indebted, then that money should be something that will yield something at the end of the day. If that money is not going to yield anything at the end of the day for you, you don't need to get that money. You can imagine yourself taking a loan because you wanted to rent an apartment, and the kind of apartment you are renting here, they are very expensive apartment. If care is not taken, you may end up even borrowing that money, because you are going to pay a lot of money in form of interest on that loan. Don't forget, loans in Nigeria now, the interest rates about 34 to 38%.